All right, everyone. My name's Mick Robson from the Arena Media. I'm here with the butt puncher himself, the PWA Heavyweight Champion, Big Fudge. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing, Mick?
Yeah, pretty good. Living the dream, and get to sit down with you and talk some wrestling. So always a good time.
I'm
Um,
sure there are worse people to chat to.
agreed, agreed. I try and stay clear of those people. Um, I've said it to you personally, but I'll say it here on camera. Congratulations on becoming PWA Heavyweight Champion. You
Thank
beat
you, man.
Chebs back in January at PWA Hottest 100. Really emotional moment, I'm sure, for you and for a lot of the fans. After the match, a lot of the PWA wrestlers joined you in the ring. Could you talk about what that moment meant to you, achieving that milestone?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I've been asked about this a few times, and it's really hard for me to articulate because I'm living in it right now. And even that moment, if you take it and isolate it, I could say that was one of the best nights of my life. I could say, man, I'll probably be on my deathbed one day, and as my life flashes before my eyes, I'll think about that night. 100% I will. But I weirdly feel uh like numb to being champion. Like it doesn't always feel real. Like sometimes I'll just look up in my like living room area, I guess, and we've got the belt on top of like a shelf of all of our like knickknacks. And I'll just look at it. I'm like, oh shit, look, I did that. I won the belt there. And I keep forgetting about it. And it's a pleasant thing to be reminded of constantly. But it's just something I never thought could truly happen to me. And I feel bad saying that because no wrestler should really like box themselves in a certain role or position and say, I'll only be this, I'll only be that, I won't do this, I won't do that. But for the longest time, it felt like my role, my position was kind of it was very clear what I was and what I was meant to do. And being the big main event guy, being the champion, the face of the company, it didn't look like it was ever going to be on the cards for me.
Yeah.
So I have to keep reminding myself that I've accomplished this amazing thing and that no one will ever be able to take it away from me. Even when I lose the championship, that's on my resume forever. That
Who
is
says you're going to lose
something
it?
that
You could be there forever
yeah, well,
champion.
I mean, I'm not going to ever lose. I'm going to be the champion forever and ever. They're going to bury me with the title. You know, when my
Exactly.
life flashes before my eyes, I'll be like, oh, that night, oh, here's the championship. I've still got it. I'm
Yeah.
100 years old and I'm still defending this thing somehow. My walking stick, my really awkward butt punches because I can't really bend down to my knee anymore because you know, my old
Arthritis is a
joints don't
bitch.
work that way.
Yeah. When
But
when you're in the grave, they're gonna cover your casket. You're still gonna kick out at two, Undertaker style.
yeah, I'll just push the lid open. Yeah, right at the last second, so all the dirt can kind of fill it up. But I'm glad you were there that night, man.
Oh, it was
I'm
a great moment
glad.
to be part of. I followed you for years, and it was an awesome thing to see. It's like the rewards of all your hard work came to fruition. So, really cool to see. And
Thank you, man.
no worries, man. And just like on that note, you sort of alluded to it there, but your character, your persona, you're very fun-loving. You can be very comedic, and a lot of wrestlers try and be that badass, serious man of a thousand holds kind of thing. That's never really been your stick. Could you talk about the Big Fudge persona and how that all came to be? How did you develop that?
Okay, good question, Mick. So, Big Fudge just started as a name, and that was the name Big Fudge is something I stole from a show I watched growing up called How I Met Your Mother. There's a character on that show, if
Marshall,
you're familiar with it,
I am
Marshall
big fan.
Erickson used to refer to himself
That's Big
as
Fudge.
Big Fudge back when he was in like college or something playing basketball.
Yeah.
So I used to love that show. And I remember hearing the name Big Fudge just out of context and thinking, that's really funny. And at the time, I was training to be a wrestler. So I was just looking for anything I could grab onto and make a character out of. And that was the thing that really stuck out to me. And the original idea for my character was completely different to what I actually developed this thing into.
So what was
I
that
was never
initially?
planning on being a masked wrestler, for one.
Okay.
I was planning on being a villain, a
Oh,
heel.
oh.
And it's funny. I mean, Big Fudge, I always joke about to people. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this or not, but Big
Absolutely. Go
Fudge
ahead.
is
Fuck yeah.
he is a piece of shit. Like as much of an underdog, beloved hero, man of the people as he might be, like he's also like incredibly ignorant and unaware, and he's done lots of like dodgy things. If you look back at like the Cherry Stevens storyline, for example, like Big
Mm,
Fudge was not a good person in that storyline, and often I kind of my role is kind of like the Bugs Bunny of PWA, where my job is to mess with the heels, and usually that's to the entertainment of the audience. But the character started off, I was always gonna be a loudmouth and overcompensate for things I didn't have. I didn't have big muscles. I didn't have a great look. I didn't have great athleticism. So I thought, all right, I'm going to really just lean into talking smack. And my idea was I'm going to have this really bland heel character, like plain black trunks. And I'm going to talk a lot of smack, but I'm going to refer to myself as Big Fudge. That was the original
yeah.
concept. There was
So the
never meant
polar
to be
opposite
like
of what you are
any.
now.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Like really colorless, really I don't know, someone to just annoy and irritate audiences and to be the idea was all like meant to be comedic, I guess. Like, but I was meant to it was meant to be more random than anything. Like, why does this guy call himself Big Fudge when there's no noticeable reason why he has that nickname? But then what happened was I started playing with that character in training matches, and the promoter at the time, who was like the old PWA promoter, he saw the character and he envisioned it as something very different. And if you look at
Yeah.
PWA characters back around the time where I started in 2015 and before that, it was kind of like a rites of passage where new wrestlers would be given very colorful masked gimmicks to start off in.
Is
And
that
they would
basically like
kind of
Chikara, Mike Quackenbush, that kind of influence?
it was absolutely a Chikara influence, Mick. Like
Yeah.
nailed it. Yeah, so we definitely were taking influence from that. But I guess the logic was if you put someone in a mask when they're new starting off, it's more forgivable if they're covering up their face, and then later on in a year or two, when they're more experienced, they can take the mask off and do another character and be more of like a legitimate threat or serious competitor, whatever it might be. So the promoter at the time saw me as a legitimate Big Fudge, not some bland heel who was just calling himself Big Fudge out of context.
Yeah.
So he drew up a sketch of what he thought my costume would look like. And I've told this story a few times. The sketch he drew was not very good. It was very brown. It was dripping. It kind of looked like a poo monster, like a
Yeah. I
monster
was thinking like
literally
Mr.
made out of poo.
Hanky. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like a weird dripping Mr. Hanky almost. And I was not a fan of it at all. I was not a fan of that much brown and that much dripping aesthetic.
Yeah.
So the one concept I kind of kept from his original drawing was the chocolate bar, except his was more like a chocolate mohawk. Like I guess it was like maybe like wider, like longer,
Yeah.
more of a mohawk style. But mine is literally just styled like a chocolate flake or a chocolate bar you dip in like your sundae or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's how I kind of envision it. I changed the color to pink because I thought at the time no male wrestlers in Australia specifically were really gravitating towards using pink for their color. It was all the girls that were using pink, so I thought that'll make me different. I'll change it up and I'll get away from the brown poo monster look because I can't make that my aesthetic. And I was absolutely under the impression that the mask and the Big Fudge name was just going to be like a temporary thing. That was 11 years ago, Mick,
It's because here we
and
are
I'm
now.
still doing
Well, so
it.
as far as you wearing the pink, I mean, there's you as a guy, wearing pink as a guy, there's you, and there's the Hart family. So you're in good company there.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that the Hearts were the only wrestlers I could think of at that time, like I guess with like a huge reputation for wearing pink and that being their aesthetic, that being their vibe. So Yeah, and I was absolutely a Bret Hart fan. So I'm happy to have donned that color, and that's kind of been my look ever since. And now I see way more male wrestlers wearing pink now. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm a trendsetter, but I'm a
You could
trendsetter,
say
if you
it.
know what I mean.
Yeah. Have confidence in yourself, man. You're a trendsetter. I believe it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got my finger in the pulse, Mick. I
Absolutely.
started this.
Well, I love that your character lends itself to like fun gimmicks and fun twists over the years. Going back many years now, probably to your earlier days. Wrestling Go, I think it was. You did a Freaky Friday match with Matty Wahlberg, and
Wow.
WWE's Grayson Waller now. When it comes to those kind of things, is that your creative concept? Is that the promoter? Is that a collaborative thing? How do you come up with those things?
Okay. So specifically the example you said, I'll give credit immediately. That idea was Grayson Waller's. The Freaky Friday match, which was a brilliant concept. Um, that was absolutely Grayson Waller's idea. But I do pride myself on being very creative. And I think that's one of my strengths as a performer. Um, I think my strengths that have really helped me connect with an audience and given me longevity is my character and my creativity. Like I haven't gotten this far by having consistent 5-star classics or risking my body and doing these ridiculous stunts. Like I very much stuck in my lane of like I am a comedy babyface underdog. How much juice can I squeeze out of this? And at the start, it was like I had so many ideas. Like I've always been a fan of wrestling growing up, and as soon as the big Fudge character started materializing, I started getting on shows. I didn't want to just have normal matches. I wanted to do stuff that which was really weird. I wanted to stand out. Um, so I'm very fortunate that in a lot of these promotions and specifically PWA, I've been allowed a lot of like creative liberty, and that my creativity has been respected like that. So that I just like doing silly stuff, and it did become challenging for a while because um I was the comedy guy strictly for years and years and years, and I got to a point where I reached a level of burnout, and the time that specifically happened was during my it was right before my story with Ricky South, where
Hmm.
he unmasked me and I took a sabbatical. I took a break for like 7 months.
I was going to ask about that. So, was that always just meant to be a break? Was it ever going to be a case of retirement, or was it just needed a break?
Oh, well, I absolutely needed a break. And one of the things I was burnt out from was being creative and trying to be funny. And I didn't want to keep forcing those things. And it got to the point where I felt like I had done so many very creative things. I didn't know how to top it anymore. I didn't know where to go. And I was starting to feel like really bitter and miserable about a few things. I didn't want to be that wrestler in the locker room. I realized I was turning into that wrestler. Um, so I got through that. 2022 was really the year where I started to like really bubble and manifest these yucky feelings, and that was actually during like the Cherry Stevens, Will Keita storyline. So I really pushed myself to keep going for those guys because I wanted to finish the story. I have like this completionist complex where whenever I start a story, like it's got to fucking finish.
Yeah,
We got to reach the end point of it.
that's a good
And
quality to have. I think in general life, see things through
yeah,
where you can.
absolutely. I don't want to rub the audience of like this incomplete story or anything like that. So we did that whole angle, and that was like a year. And I just remember I was getting to the point where doing stuff like promos was brutal. Like I couldn't stomach it. Like I hated every idea I was coming up with, and everything felt rough. And I knew that I had already pitched this idea about working with Ricky to help further him as a villain, and specifically the idea of him unmasking me, because I thought that would just be devastating. We've protected this for so long.
That's why I queried whether it was you finishing or whether you taking a break. Taking off the mask seemed like such a major thing. I'm like, is that the end? Because why else would he unmask kind of thing?
Yeah. So it wasn't always the plan for me to take a break after that, actually. We got closer and closer to the angle happening, and I just realized before we did it, it would be the most impactful thing if I just disappeared for a while. Like it would really sell how heavy it was. Like I started to get an inkling of like, fuck, when we do this, this might actually be like a really devastating thing for our audience to witness.
It was a whole
And if
shit
I'm
moment
just
for
like
sure.
back the next month, just in like another match, killing time, filling a spot or whatever, it's like, how do I really sell the immediate impacts of that? And at some point, I was thinking about doing a different version of the character. At some point, I was thinking of even doing Big Fudge without the mask for a while, and maybe he's lost and he isn't quite himself anymore. And then we got really close to the match, and I just knew like, no, I think I need this time off. I think it's going to do me a lot of good because I shouldn't feel this bitter about this passion of mine that I've put all this time and energy into for years and years and years. I've got to take that time away so I can fall in love with wrestling again. And
Would
that's
you say you
exactly
did
what
that?
happened.
You said you came back. Would you say you came back recharged and feeling a lot better about yourself mentally?
Man, it's one of the best choices I've made in wrestling because I think things for me since I took that break and since I returned have just gotten better and better and better. And a lot of it just comes down to like my mindset. I needed that break. I needed to take that time away to realize, like, oh shit, I love wrestling and I really need this in my life. And there was like a hole in my life where when I wasn't performing for those 7 months, I did feel a little bit lost. It was also kind of like this experiment to see, like, can I just be a normal person without being a wrestler? Like, can I just have a life without this?
Yeah.
And the truth is, it was hard and it was confronting. And I didn't like I didn't like the life I was having without being a performer at that time. But I didn't want to keep spinning my wheels either. I wanted to start to see some real progression in my career and some growth.
Yeah.
So what actually happened was, here's the part two of this story, right? I took that break and I recharged my batteries big time. I felt so refreshed. And the way I kind of stayed in wrestling was I came to PWA shows to help behind the scenes. And the thing I specifically did was I started shooting promos backstage to help out our main producer, Jax.
Yeah.
So I started working with people like the Dropouts and the Backside Girls when they were just starting their characters off.
Yeah.
And they were super receptive to my feedback when I was helping him out with these promos backstage after the matches they had. And I was like, that became my adrenaline rush of like, I'm not performing as a wrestler, I'm helping out this new talent. So I liked that. And I was trying to figure out, like, am I going to continue to be a wrestler or am I going to have a new role where I help develop talent and I try to find another role doing something like that? And I remember I had a brunch with Chris Gale, our commentator, who's our commentator on the surface, but he does a lot more for PWA behind the
Yeah.
scenes. And
I've gone out. I've known Chris very well. He's been a great guy, great to have chats with and meals with. Great guy.
yeah, he's amazing. And all the growth PWA has experienced in recent years, a good chunk of that is it's thanks to Chris Gale and his contributions and how he's given us the leg up to have these opportunities. And I remember I had brunch with him just after I came back. So I'd been back for like maybe a couple months, not long, and I'd only had like 2 or 3 matches. And he was talking to me a bit about how I felt about wrestling. Now I'd come back after this time off and if I felt recharged and stuff. And I said, I remember saying to him that I was at a real crossroads at that point. As much as I felt like an empty shell of a human without actively performing when I had those 7 months off, I was really ready to bet on myself and bet on the character Big Fudge and see some progress and see if I can actually make something out of this. And if I couldn't, um, it was probably going to be time for me to figure out something else to do. I was I was really at a crossroads where after I took that break, I said, I'm really going to give wrestling a red hot fucking go now. And if I'm not happy with where I am in a year or two, then I don't think I can keep convincing myself to perform because I'm going to be right back into that mindset that I was going into before I took that sabbatical.
Yeah, and that affects the
So
rest
it
of the
was
locker room
really,
as well. And yeah, it's like a domino effect, I guess. If you're backstage not feeling great, spreading that around the locker room wouldn't be great for everyone, including yourself.
yeah, you're exactly right, Mick. And I didn't want to have that influence on people. I didn't especially when I was becoming someone who was one of the older people in the locker room. I was sticking around and I was watching lots of people come and go. And there was lots of people who started after me who were much younger and much fresher into their careers. And I didn't want to have a negative influence on them. So absolutely what you said is like spot on. And I'm glad I stuck around after I had that chat with Chris Gale. I think that's probably the first time I've told that story specifically about how I was at that crossroads of like, man, I love wrestling, but I don't know if I can keep convincing myself to do it because there's a certain limit to how creative I can be and how funny I can be if I feel like it's not really flourishing and it's not really getting me anywhere, if that makes sense.
You
If
don't want to
I'm
jump the
just stuck,
shark, I guess.
yeah, for sure. And not just comedically speaking, I thought as a babyface, I had squeezed so much juice out of it. And I was like, how much more can I do? And then we did the Ricky angle. I was like, all right, there's way more juice I can squeeze out of this as a babyface. Okay, it's running a bit dry. What can I do? Then I won the fucking championship a couple years later. So I'm like, all right, I think there's a bit more juice in this thing now. But
Absolutely worked out.
truly, it was it's been on my mind the last few years of like how much longer can I keep wrestling? I'd love to keep wrestling, but my physical health is a factor. And I wonder about what I'm going to be like 10, 20 years from now, or even deeper than that. Like,
Yeah, it
so
bumps that up for
that's
sure.
where for sure. Yeah. That's where I'm at. And I'm glad I kept going. I wouldn't I wouldn't have achieved what I did if I didn't hang around. But also, if I didn't take that time off, I wouldn't have achieved it either. And I think that just made me so much sharper of a performer that I took that time off and I came back, and it made me like when you want something so bad, and you don't realize how bad you want it, and you take that thing away from yourself, even if you were feeling like bitter feelings about it, and then you come back to it, you're like, oh, I am in love with this all over again. These promos that were brutal for me to shoot like 7 months ago, so much fun now, so refreshing. I have so many ideas again. And
Yeah,
thankfully, I'm still in this place mentally where I feel like I've got loads of creative ideas. You guys haven't seen half of them, they're still cooking. I've
awesome.
still got that that performer inside of me that wants to make people laugh as well. And I'm glad I haven't lost that because that was a challenging thing for a while. It's like, can I still be funny? Am I funny? Can I keep doing this?
Yeah,
And thankfully, that's really been rejuvenated. And even recently, I feel like I've done some of my silliest work and some of my funniest work that I will personally laugh at myself. And even just thinking about some of the stuff I did with Aaron Jake is
yeah.
like
A little sit down over the friendship and everything, and he's trying to be manipulative and
yeah, but last year before I won the championship, man, the promos we did were so dumb together. And the concept of that was literally just me. I'm really breaking the fourth wall here, man. So you're getting the scoop, Mick.
appreciate it. Thank you.
It was just me and Aaron Jake and Jax behind the camera. And what was motivating me in those promos is how can I break Aaron Jake? How can I break Jax? How can I actually make them laugh?
I love that.
And like they never knew what I didn't know what I was going to say half the time, and they never knew what I was going to say because every take we did was like basically different, and I kept just spitballing new things to try and shock them and try and make them laugh. So that's kind of like a style I've been leaning more into the last few years of just rather than planning, oh, this is a funny line, I'm going to say this because it's funny. I just try and feel it, and I just try to it's kind of like this improvised style almost of like we're going
I
to
was gonna
film a
say
promo
it's in the moment.
and these are the points we have to get to, but I don't know what I'm going to say half the time. We're just going to free ball and see what happens.
I think that's when the magic comes out the most. So, you mentioned earlier the storyline with you and Cherry Stevens and Will Keatis. I don't think I've ever said it to you before, but that's actually one of my favorite storylines in PWA as long as I've been a fan the past like 8 years or so. I love that storyline because it was so layered and yeah, it was funny, but there was also like emotional beats in it. And like you were saying, you weren't necessarily the nicest character, and Cherry was so conflicted. I thought it was really good storytelling. Could you talk about that angle and sort of what went into that, the three of you working together?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, thank you for the very kind compliment you just gave us on that story. And to be honest, lots of fans still talk about that story to me. And I know like the other guys hear about it as well whenever they're around. Like Cherry is not actively performing, but sometimes she'll kind of hang around shows, and so a lot of people have never forgotten about that story. So it's really cool the impact that it had. And it was a real collaboration. Um, and I realized how obsessed those two were with making it as good as it could be, because we sometimes spent hours on the phone talking about this story, and we spent so long sometimes filming like a 1 minute or a 2 minute promo. Sometimes we'd spend hours working on every single little line. And I knew those two were amazing as well. When we started working together and I saw how bad they wanted it and how much time and energy they were willing to invest for these little spots, because you've got to remember at the time, the whole story was about giving a showcase to Cherry. But at the time, she had only ever had little spots here and there. She was, showcased somewhat, but then she became like Will Keatis's personal referee and stuff like that. So she
Yeah,
wasn't really getting a lot of spotlight as an active performer at the time. And I knew she was amazing, and I knew the fans loved her. And it was also a challenge for me because I was in this role where I was like Big Fudge had done a lot of awful stuff directed at heels, but this was the first time I'd really done another babyface dirty like that.
yeah,
And I don't know, something that I took away from that angle was how satisfying it was taking the fans on that emotional roller coaster.
yeah.
Like by the time we got to the payoff where we did that promo in the ring, it was like a live Goober report where we did the reveal where Keatis threw me under the bus and told Cherry that
Yeah.
it was all bet and
It
that
sticks in my head that one line from Cherry. She turns around to you and goes, "I was a fucking bet," and I'm just like, "Whoa!" Every once in a while, I think of Cherry Stevens, and that line just pops into my head instantly.
right. That's
And,
awesome, man.
and that
So,
was years ago, right? So it's definitely memorable.
dude, yeah, literally 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
Um, Crazy because I just remember feeling the energy in that promo specifically. And a lot of times you'll do promos on a live Aussie show, and the fans will try and be funny and they'll try and interject and they'll call out and they'll heckle and whatever. But that was literally like every line we gave, people were silent, and we'd give a line and there was amazing reactions after we
yeah,
were just talking like we'd done like a fucking superplex or a massive move or whatever. And I just remember the devastation, especially like my line was Sherry said to me after Kias did reveal that I had made a bet on her that I could make her champion. And Kiedis was like, tell her, Fudge. And Cherry was like, is it true, Fudge?
Mm.
And all I had to say was, Cherry, I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fans fucking lost it. I didn't have to say, yes, I did the bet on you. I feel really bad about it.
Yeah. You didn't
What
have
an
to lay it
awful
out.
thing. Yeah, no, I think I just said a few words to her and it got this massive reaction. But also, there's a good chunk of the audience, I'm sure, that were there that night that had probably never seen a PWA show before, right?
Yeah.
So their first exposure to that story was literally that night. So that promo and every promo we had to do for that matter was not only progressing the story, but any promo we did and any match we did could have been an entry point for new fans because every show is some fans' first show, right? So we
Yeah.
always thought about it like that. And we specifically designed the promo for that purpose. Yes, this is the payoff, and all the fans have invested this time for months know this is the payoff. But also, if this is your first time watching, you need to understand what's happening. So, yeah, we did that, and Cherry stood tall at the end, and it felt incredibly satisfying. And then she went on to challenge and defeat Mick Murray to become the sole PWA champion, which I thought was a massive accomplishment for her. And
I hear those guys really
yeah,
don't like each other, Cherry and Mick. I hear they really don't get along.
no, they must. I think they're bitter enemies until the end.
I
Absolutely.
think so.
Um, so I really, like I said, just gained tremendous respect for both performers, but we all spent so much time on the stupidest little details of that angle and of our characters. And that's one of the reasons why I kept going in 2022 because as I expressed previously in this interview, I was feeling really bitter and shitty about wrestling at the time. But when I saw how much those two cared and how much time they wanted to put into it, I knew I couldn't let them down. And I had to try and make it as good as it could be for them. And I think the results spoke for themselves. And also, that gave me a little bit of a taste of like, it's kind of fun to break fans' hearts. And that was kind of the real nugget because I had the idea in my back pocket for years of a heel wrestler can beat the shit out of Big Fudge and take my mask off and they would be despised for it. But after we did that Cherry Stephens angle, I was like, man, I could really break some fans' hearts and I could really enjoy this moment just absolutely devastating the fans, which is a really sick thing to say, isn't it? I'm a
It is,
sick
and you're
man.
such a great baby face, but I understand the mentality. It makes a lot of sense because if you can draw that emotion out, I mean, that's the whole goal, right? You want the fans to feel things. You want people to have those emotions, positive and negative. You want to take them through that story.
Yeah, wrestling isn't always just positive emotions. It's not always just excitement. It's that wide array of emotions. It's feeling sad and deflated and disappointed sometimes. And I think a lot of the times in the moment, fans it's also like because we're in like the short attention span generation where everyone just wants everything immediately now. So when a fan is confronted with a result they do not like, they look at it like this is shit booking, this is a shit show. I didn't like the outcome of that match, therefore this story and this wrestling is bad. But
Yeah,
it actually, I think, adds to it because it makes you want things even more. And we see it constantly in wrestling, right? Another great example in PWA was Tuckman and Robbie. The first match they had, Tuckman lost in a devastating
yeah,
way,
got destroyed.
and it crushed the fans. Or another one in recent memory, which is way more mainstream, is Cody Rhodes. The first time he wrestled Roman Reigns, lost, and
Yeah,
fans, everyone said this was his time. Shit booking. They messed it up. He had the perfect opportunity to win the belt, but then we wouldn't have gotten that payoff the following year the same way if there wasn't that massive dip in the roller coaster. So I think that's what I'm all about as a babyface. I've got to be sympathetic. I've been like a loser majority of my career, so I've got to have sympathy. Absolutely.
mm,
Otherwise, I've just committed to losing all this time for nothing. So
mm.
yeah, no, that's it's an amazing thing when you can devastate grown adults in the audience.
So I mentioned a couple of my favorite moments and storylines of your career, especially in PWA. Would you care to talk about what's some of your favorite matches, moments, storylines, whatever may be in your case?
The two stories that I feel the most proud of at the moment, I'll say three, and we've already spoken about them all, man. So there's no surprises. Um, it's the Cherry Stevens, Cherry's All That storyline. Uh, it's the storyline I did with Ricky,
Yeah.
and there's a new contender here.
Oh,
And I briefly touched upon it before. It's the work I did with Aaron Jake. And I feel like that holds a special place in my heart now because after I did the Ricky storyline, I was certain, how could I ever top this?
yeah,
I was like, the emotional depth of this story and how much we got out of the audience for that. The cliffhanger, we left them on, we didn't give them any answers for 7 months. And then to have this triumphant return all this time later, um, in a championship match, we was facing off against Jess Troy, and then it was probably like another half year later where we actually had the match. And by that point, I was like, "Oh, we still gonna have the fans," and that was really like that was my job at the time, was to try and make fans care. Ricky's job was to not acknowledge it in any capacity after I came back and after I fucked him over from the championship.
yeah,
He couldn't have acknowledged it in any way. He couldn't have looked at me. He couldn't have done anything until it was time to pull the trigger. So it was all on me just to sell this storyline and to make people care and to make people remember. And everyone remembered and everyone was invested by the time we finally got that singles match again. So we did that. And I thought, damn, how am I ever going to top this feeling? How am I ever going to? And it's hard because wrestling is so subjective, even to the performers themselves,
of
especially
course.
to the audience.
Yeah,
But I did that, and I felt like the energy and time I invested into that story, I was so rewarded for, and I felt like that just took me up to the next level, to the point where after that, I got in Coliseum, which was a really big deal to me. Another thing I thought was never going to happen, and it's weird. Here's a nugget. Sorry, I'm just going to give you like a little side tangent here, which I'll always do with my answers.
yeah,
Apologies.
and I appreciate it. It's what we love.
Before the original match with Ricky, where he beat me and he took my mask off and I disappeared for months, I did a promo, just a solo promo where I was really trying to like babyface 101. I was just trying to sell the match. But I was also in this promo, it was just a sit down solo promo. It was like a huge moment of character development for Big Fudge because it was the moment Big Fudge officially developed self awareness. And before that, Big Fudge had always been like really naive about who he was, hence 7 foot tall, 170 kilograms, all that. But in
Believe
that
it.
promo, I start talking about how I'm different to the other performers
Mm,
and how the other performers get the big matches and the big opportunities. And that's just not who Big Fudge is. And especially when I was comparing that to Ricky,
mm,
who was he was our champion. He was the guy at the time, and he's like he's the ultimate wrestler you could be, is the
yeah,
best compliment I can give him, right? And I'm sure I'm
absolutely.
not the only guy that feels that way.
Yeah,
But in that promo, I had a laundry list of stuff I'd never done and basically stuff I thought I was never going to do. I mentioned how I felt this kind of like professional jealousy for my friends because it was amazing to watch them accomplish things I wasn't accomplishing, but also watching them accomplish those things made me further realize who I am as a performer and how far away I was from ever accomplishing those things. The things I mentioned specifically were entering Coliseum,
yeah,
wrestling in a main event championship match, and the last one was wrestling on an overseas tour.
right.
I've kind of that promo And the reason why I brought that up, it was kind of a checklist of stuff I wanted to do, but also stuff I thought like I was never going to do. And I've already ticked off 2 out of 3. And in that promo, I just said have a championship main event. I didn't say win the belt. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like a nice little bonus.
Do you
So
think
I've
that's like
just
a
got like
turning
one.
point, putting that out in the universe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. So that's kind of like the last thing on my goals is from, I mean, until I set some new goals. I've got stuff I want to accomplish, even small goals, but those were the 3 major goals. I kind of sat down and was like, am I ever going to do this stuff? Am I going to make this reality? And now, years later, I can look back on that promo. I'm like, this is something that's going to go all over fans' heads for sure. No one's going to remember this one promo when we live in like a land of constant content that comes and goes, and promos, for the most part, it's just words blurted out at a screen to get butts and seats. And as fun as they might be, they're not always super memorable. But I always remember that promo now as like number one, the moment Big Fudge had self awareness, but number two, where I had the checklist of like stuff I didn't think I was going to do, but I actually ended up doing. Anyway, that's a long winded tangent. To go back to my actual answer of the things I'm proud of and the stories that stick with me the most, this Aaron Jake chapter is a new strong contender to answer that. And the reason why it is because it's all the things I love. It is the stupidest shit I could have imagined. Like, I don't know if you remember Lil Fudge, like the sock puppet. That was
I
me
don't
and
actually.
Aaron Jake last year. That was just us throwing shit on the wall and him being such a good straight man,
Yeah.
where I was like, how can I just be bouncing off the walls so crazy around him? And also, Aaron Jake was such, before I did that storyline with him, he was such like a physical threat in terms of like his promo style was very much yelling at the camera. And if he had a promo with another wrestler, he was getting into a fight with them.
Yeah, the
He was
Street
just
King.
getting into a, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was I was curious, can I have this story with Aaron Jake, or can I have these promos with him where he's not punching on with me, and we're utilizing him as a straight man, and we're seeing how far we can push me in my comedic role. And we did that last year, and we weren't expecting much out of it. We had a payoff we wanted to get to, but at the time, it honestly felt like this is just a mid card rivalry, and our roles right now as performers are just to fill in spots of bigger matches and concepts. You've got a rumble, cool. Aaron, Jake, and Big Fudge can continue their little bickering story in that. You've got a ladder match, amazing. Aaron, Jake, and Big Fudge can continue our little bickering rivalry through that ladder match as an avenue to do that. But we're not the biggest story there. There are bigger stories going on. So I never thought it would wind up like it did, where this year I was the champion and I wrestled Aaron Jake for the championship. That is crazy.
I
If
think
you
that
look at the start of our feud, which, like I said, it's mid card comedy feud where we're just filling in spots on a card to just try and keep our face and keep us in kind of the idea of fans' minds of like, hey, we're still active performers. We'll just do what we can to make the best out of whatever we're given. And it ended up leading to a massive payoff where we get to have this hugely emotional championship match. And Aaron Jake he gave that match a real gravity, especially because he did this amazing promo, which I think you alluded to earlier, where we both sat down.
yeah.
We had a legitimate face to face about how he betrayed me and how I couldn't trust him anymore, and how I viewed him as this despicable person. And then Aaron Jake just he went nuts in that promo, and that was a real showcase of him as a performer. And that match was a real showcase of him as a performer.
I think it really
So
elevated him a lot and elevated his standing. I think it over delivered on what people expected from it, and we kind of went, "Whoa, that was emotional. That was intense," kind of thing. And I think it changed the way people viewed him, and maybe in a way you as well, because I think winning the championship's one thing, but the way you follow up on that championship when that first title defense can be meaningful as well. And I think you guys both delivered really well in that spot.
Thank you, Mick. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think to be fair, I don't think Aaron Jake had had any kind of story to sink his teeth into that had that kind of like emotional layering to it. And I was fortunate enough where I'd done a couple of things. I had done the Ricky story, I'd done the Cherry Stevens storyline before that. So I had a few little tastes of like, oh, it's really nice to have these emotionally devastating stories. But it's just crazy in hindsight to look back of where we started, and we weren't in a big position, but it just shows if you make the best out of whatever you're given, you never know how it's going to work out. And the way we thought that story was going to pay off to, where it was going to go, we were pleasantly surprised with how much bigger the payoff actually turned out to be over a year later when we got a championship match. That was never on the cards for us when we started our little silly feud. So, yeah, I think Aaron Jake, hell of a talented performer, and similar to the praise I gave Ketis and Cherry Stevens, he just cares so much. Like he is obsessed with wrestling, and I know it because I've worked with him, and he's a star now. I think he is. Like
Yeah,
after
absolutely.
that match, I'm a little biased, but I think he really, yeah, he showed up that day.
Yeah, I would agree. Talking about the top spots, now being the champion and being in those sort of main event positions, do you feel pressure now that you're in that top spot to deliver and to keep coming up with new things as it increased now that you're
Yes.
champion? Yeah.
Because what a crazy jump it is to be the performer that I am, which is for the majority of my career, I was a comedic performer having short matches. And there's more to it than that. I'm kind of like, I'm not really, I'm making it sound a lot worse than it is. And maybe that's my cynical view about it. But
I
to
think you're always
now,
entertaining. No matter what you were doing, you're always entertaining. And I think that's why you have the following you do. It would always deliver, it always put a smile on people's faces and, achieved a lot. People walked away from Big Fudge match going, yeah, that was awesome.
I
No matter-
appreciate that, Mick. Thank
Yeah,
you. But it's like a new skill entirely to have like a main event style match.
mm, absolutely. It is
And
different.
it was confronting because here I am 11 years in, and like any active wrestler should always feel like they're always learning, right? But I'm really learning a lot now, man. Like, and I've kind of flirted with these big style matches before, so it's not completely foreign to me, but it's not something by any means I would say, oh, I'm super confident in this position. I know everything about it. I know what I'm doing. I know what I can do here. I know what I can do here. A lot of it is just fake it till you make it. And I'm learning on the job.
It's not like a Robbie
So,
Eagles where you've been there a million times and.
yeah, for sure. If you look at someone like Robbie by comparison, like, man, he's just always been a big time player in PWA. And even around the world, he's just seen as one of the top performers in Australia, right? I feel
Absolutely, yeah.
like he's the benchmark of Australian wrestling. And that he's a man, I'm sure that would be comfortable. He walks into a main event, it's just another main event to him, right?
Yeah.
He's had plenty before, he'll have plenty after. But for me, now I'm walking into that territory. And like I said, I've kind of dabbled before in having like big matches, but to now be the focus, to be the champion, to be the face of the company,
Yeah.
it's like, man, I've got to deliver. And another nugget to it worth mentioning, I guess, is as vocal as the fans are at PWA and as well received as me winning the championship has been at PWA, I try to take on all feedback and I try to listen to all of our audience, whether they're in the room or whether they're online. And a lot of people online, maybe not a lot of people, but I've seen people online who do not fuck with the idea of Big Fudge being the champion,
Mm. So
right?
something different, you
Uh,
know?
yeah, the I think it's very jarring, the idea of this guy who's always been pushed as a comedy underdog to then become the champion. And I can understand, like, that's the satisfying payoff of years and years and years of being the underdog to finally achieving the dream. And we've seen that in wrestling time and time again. But also I try to look at it from their perspective
Yeah.
of, I know what I am. I know the performer I am. One of my signature moves is literally called the butt punch. Like,
Yeah.
I can understand some people like their wrestling in a certain way. They like, uh, there are so many different flavors of wrestling, no
Mm.
pun intended, right?
Yeah.
And some people think it's the main event. You have to have the biggest, most serious matches. And I'm trying to push my character into that, into that realm while still being believable as my character is.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge. And sometimes I look at the feedback. I'll call it feedback. I can also call it criticism of
Yeah.
me being champion, me not being a believable champion. And I try to figure out how I can improve on that. How can I change the perceptions of people that I should be champion and I belong as champion, because part of me agrees with them.
Yeah.
It's part of me feels like I am the black sheep out of the PWA champions. If you look at the list of all the PWA heavyweight champions in history and you look at my name, it sticks out. And maybe it doesn't stick out in a good way. Maybe it sticks out in a weird way, like, oh, that guy won the belt. What happened there?
I,
So
I think there's a place for comedy in wrestling, though. Like, I know main events super serious, but only if you look at some main event performers over the years at the top level, you can see a lot of comedic elements and things that they do. Like, say Kurt Angle, for example, or The Rock,
oh,
even Stone Cold at times. Like, you can be funny and still be a main event player. I guess it depends on how much you ride that line, but I guess what you can do from here is obviously you're aware of the feedback, criticism. I don't know how you could take it in a way that puts a chip on your shoulder and go, all right, I'm going to prove you wrong and prove that this can work. And I think the more performances you have going forward, especially like the Aaron Jake one and the Chevs one as well, they were fairly serious matches that got pretty intense, but you stayed true to who Big Fudge is. I think it just takes time to make people believers. And some people you won't make believers, but that's okay. Not everyone likes the same flavor of ice cream.
you're right. Yeah, no, that was beautifully said. I'm not gonna win everyone over. It's impossible. And the people you just listed then are people I constantly mention as well. The Rock, Kurt Angle, even Stone Cold. Like, these people were top guys. They were viewed as legitimate threats. I don't think I'm quite at that level yet.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think anyone's viewing Big Fudge as like, oh, he's a really big, serious threat yet. But what I envy about those guys, and someone, if I have to put it in the context of the PWA bubble, right? A performer I look at is Mick Moretti,
yeah,
because
right.
he can choose when to be silly and when to be serious. And the audience will go along with whatever his choice is,
Yeah.
right? I don't have that choice. I think externally, you look at me, I just look silly.
Mm.
It's maybe something about the big pink mask with the chocolate bar coming out the head.
Possibly.
It's hard to fight that
Who's to say?
perception.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
Um, but I really am jealous of Mick, and I look up to him a lot because he has the perfect balance of being an entertainer, but also being someone who is a legitimate threat, and he can be viewed in either light, and he can make those choices actively, and the audience will view him in either light. They'll either laugh along with him or they'll be devastated at how intense his matches can be. And that's the balance I'm trying to learn actively. I'm trying to learn, how can I how can I take this character, which I've consistently tried to make the silliest character I can make it to be, and how can I stay true to that in some capacity, but how can I also push it forward to be a believable big fight contender, and someone that belongs in the main event scene. So a lot of it is on me now.
Yeah.
Like I've just got to figure it out. And it's a constant learning process. And I think the way you put it, it's time.
Yeah.
It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. I need to now consistently prove I can have these matches and I can be that performer.
Yeah.
So it's all on me. And that's the pressure that you asked me about originally. Do I feel the pressure on my shoulders of having these big matches? Fuck yeah, I do, especially because I am what I am.
Yeah.
And people don't, not everyone likes who I am and what I represent. And I'm not going to win every single fan over. But if I can convert a few fans, I'm really satisfied. And I think I've actually been able to do that. In the past, I've been able to flip people. And part of why I think I can flip people is because I do actively try to listen to our audience and I try to take on all feedback, whatever I can. I think there's something to be gained from every voice.
Yeah.
And it's tricky, but I'm here now and I got to put my money where my mouth is. And I've got to be a champion worthy of the company that I love because PWA has meant everything to me, man. And I am not the person I am today without PWA. I'm not talking about Big Fudge. I'm talking about take the mask off. The man underneath this mask, he's not the man he is today without this company and what this company has done to me. What this company has done for me, I should say.
Yeah.
So I think a lot now about legacy. And when I told you previously in our conversation, the crossroads I was at that day, I talked to Chris Gale about whether I could keep going or whether I only had another year or two left in me. What I think about now constantly is legacy because I've been wrestling long enough where I can look back on my career as a body of work and I feel proud of it, but I want more and I want to be remembered as one of the greats.
Yeah.
That's what I'm striving to do.
I think we owe Chris Gale a debt of gratitude for having that brunch with you and talking you through that time. I'm very glad you're here and refreshed the way you are now. It's
I'm
it's
happy to be
funny.
here, Mick.
It's funny that you mentioned taking off the masks. It's like you were reading my notes because that was going to lead to my next question there. Um, in the last few months, you did a story on SBS Insight where you actually did have the mask off and you let people into your double life, what you do in your real life and your real job, and then also juggling that with wrestling. What went into that appearance and why did you choose to go on that show?
Um, so the opportunity came up from PWA management, and the show had specifically pitched to PWA, hey, we're looking for a wrestler that helps encapsulate the topic escapism. That episode was all about escapism, right?
Yeah.
So PWA immediately thought of me as a great example of that. They reached out to me. They said, would I be interested? And I said, yes, definitely. I'd never been on TV. That was another one of those bucket list items I wanted to tick off as a performer. And I don't think there was ever an option for me to do it with the mask, or I ever considered doing it with the mask. But also, it's weird, the domino effect. I think about it now because I'm way more comfortable now being out of character, even though I've got this mask on right now. I'm completely out of character talking to you about this thing,
Yeah.
but I'm way more comfortable being recognized, not having the mask on, and just being who I am underneath the mask and talking about wrestling to fans, to people outside the company, to having cameras record stuff with me. Because now I've done like a couple things. Like I did something with 7 News as well earlier this year as well, where I was just like completely exposed, completely naked. And I don't think I get to that point unless I did that angle with Ricky.
Yeah.
Because before the angle with Ricky, I was so incredibly protective of the mask and
Yeah.
wearing it at all conceivable times that I could ever possibly be seen.
Mm.
So if for example, if we had someone, an outsider, come to training to film stuff for content, they're a documentary crew, which happens all the fucking time, they're a
Yeah.
news crew, whatever. I just have this mask on the entire time, whether the cameras are on or off. I just can't give him that opening. The same with, there were days I kept my mask on for hours and hours on end because I was out in areas where I could possibly be viewed by fans. I didn't want that to be exposed. So I, I really truly went above and beyond to protect my identity as good as I could as good as I could at the time. And I knew that by protecting it, it made it more special.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
um so I knew the moment with Ricky would have weight to it, but also it was kind of like a relief when it happened because after that moment, it was kind of like, well, I've been seen now.
Yeah,
I'm not going to pretend that I haven't been seen, and I'm not going to pretend that's not out there now because anyone can go and see that. Anyone can go look it up now.
yeah,
And I'm at the point now where some of the opportunities are bigger than me wearing this silly little mask on my head. The opportunities with SBS, the opportunities with Seven News, just they are bigger platforms than protecting the kayfabe, I guess, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
And now I'm very fortunate to be in that position where the opportunities are bigger than the me protecting these little stories and me protecting this little character. And I recognize that. But I also wouldn't be comfortable putting myself in that position if I never had the match with Ricky, where he
yeah,
took my mask off. And by doing that, and by finally being seen by fans, because the other thing was I kind of played this weird game with fans for years where if I didn't have my mask on, I had a hoodie on, or I kept my eyes to the ground, I didn't want to look at anyone, I didn't want to talk to anyone. Whenever someone tried to be like, oh, big Fudge, I
yeah,
would no sell them. I would try and tell them, nope, you got me mistaken with someone else. But now I don't have to bullshit people, right?
yeah,
So, and most of the fans were cool like that. I think because I have like a distinctive face. Like most of my, like a good chunk of my face is available anyway. I
yeah,
have a distinctive voice and a distinctive walk. So a lot of fans kind of saw at these smaller venues, these smaller shows, when there's only so much crew around, they would figure out who I was. And a lot of them were respectful enough to not approach me or not talk to me in a certain way of like, oh, you're Big Fudge, which
yeah,
is kind of, it was nice, even though we both knew. I
yeah.
knew, I know, you know, I know, like, but it was
I did
still
that a few
nice.
times over the years when I'd see you around.
uh, but now I don't need to pretend. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean? I don't need to insult people's intelligence. So I can just go up to yourself at a shop. I don't have my face on, and we can just chat. And I'm happy to do that. And it's not this weird, uncomfortable situation where I feel like I'm doing like a disservice to the character, or
yeah,
even other people. Like we've got another regular. I see him all the time. Terrence. He's been a fan for many years. He's a great guy, and I see him. Sometimes I don't have my face on, and I'm happy to just go up and have a chat to him. And actually, those moments are quieter usually,
yeah.
so it's an easier chance where other people aren't going to come interrupt our conversation, ask for a picture.
Yeah, it's not nice to have that sort of interaction where you don't have to be as on, I guess. You can just have the nice personal interaction.
Yeah, man, that's it.
Um, Talking about sort of you've been wrestling now for 11 years. Before you got into it, or even as you've been in it and developing yourself, what would you say are some of your like influences or inspirations in becoming a wrestler and building on your character and so on?
I've been obsessed with wrestling ever since I can remember, like ever since I was a little kid. So lifelong fan of wrestling. And in terms of like the world of wrestling, I I think I was always influenced by those characters. And like not necessarily like some people I would watch. For example, a guy that stood out to me when I was very young was Chris Jericho because he was just incredibly entertaining. He could be really funny, but he was also an amazing wrestler, and he was also so diverse with his character, the way he kept evolving it.
Yeah,
But then another guy I really liked a lot when I started out was Kane, and I am nothing other than the choke slam. Like I couldn't be, and the mask, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Was that
be more
intentional?
different. Not at all. No, it's not.
Mm.
I couldn't be more different from him. But he was a character I loved watching growing up. Um, I think another massive influence for me is probably the influence of just movies and TV I watched growing up.
Yeah.
I already alluded to how I took the name from How I Met Your Mother, but I
Yeah.
think
Can't believe I've never made that connection as a huge How I Met Your Mother fan as well. It's never clicked.
well, I think also the name Big Fudge is somewhat common. It's not incredibly unique, and I'm not even sure if it's just from How I Met Your Mother. There might have been people that used it before then because like DJ Big Fudge is an example here from
Yeah.
like Emo Night AM/PM, and he's actually had the Big Fudge name way longer than I've ever had it. I think he started using it in like 2011 or something like that.
All right.
So I've seen the name around, and if you search Big Fudge, you'll get a whole number of like different people and characters online. But I think in terms of the character, like I take a lot of comedic influences from movies and TV shows. So probably stuff like The Simpsons and South Park and How I Met Your Mother or Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Great shows.
Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm are all like examples. But then like I also think about when I was growing up, a lot of like the comedy movies I watched and fuck, dude, so many of them. I really liked Super Bad and Pineapple
Oh,
Express,
so good.
and just a lot of that stuff had a massive influence on me growing up.
Yeah.
So,
It turns out we have a lot in common. There's a lot of my favorite movies and shows too, you're mentioning. So,
right,
yeah.
even stuff like it's funny, like Borat is like weirdly an influence on Big Fudge and the approach I have to Big Fudge
That
because if you look at
naivety and
Borat,
not just saying anything.
yeah, it's but the idea of Borat, I'm forgetting the actor's name,
Baron Cohen.
Sasha, yeah, Sasha Baron Cohen. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
He is so method with how he does Borat, and
Mm.
to him, it's all real, but it's also about getting a reaction out of other people, and
Yeah.
that is so Big Fudge coded, right?
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of weird promos and stuff where they've kind of been wrestling promos, but out of the context of wrestling, where I'm just interacting with normal people, just real
Yeah.
people as
Just
this character.
get any reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that has been like super Borat coded, where I just kind of go undercover almost as his character, and I just try and get like reactions out of people. Um, so I think movies and TV has been a massive influence on me, but also, of course, I look at a lot of wrestlers. Chris Jericho, definitely. In terms of like comedy goats, I love Santina Morella.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love two people I often give praise to and credit to for influencing me, and they're not people that are as widely recognized as they should be. And you might recognize their appearance if you saw a picture of them. You might not recognize them by name. Kikataro and Carmen are two comedy masked wrestling legends,
All
and
right.
they are hilarious. And I've taken so many, like I can't even lie. I've flat out, I've stolen a lot of ideas from them in
Yeah.
terms of like little comedy spots here and there and things they do. Like, I Big Fudge will never hit a suplex. Big Fudge will always hook a suplex and say it's time for a big suplex, baby, and then Big Fudge will get suplexed every single time,
I
and
mean,
that's
you're
just
not lying. A big suplex does happen. I mean,
you're right, it does. But
yeah.
that's Kikataro. That's
Yeah.
just Kikataro's influence. Like he will always do that spot in his matches where he hooks like a suplex and he'll have like this massive monologue about how he's about to do this huge move. And then as soon as he hooks the arm over, he gets suplexed or brain busted. So yeah, I'm a I'm a real mix of all these different influences in my life of different parts of our culture and different wrestlers. I'm not just one thing, and it's hard to narrow it down. And even because the further I talk to you about it, the more kind of like
You're
gets unlocked
jogging your
in
brain a
my
bit. Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even a guy like Crash Holly, who I didn't realize I was influenced by, who was the little guy thinking he was a big man as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Those types of characters. The
With the
Hurricane
scales.
was a massive one as well. Like
Yeah.
growing up watching him, the Hurricane is probably the guy I took the choke slam from,
Yeah.
realistically,
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. The
more than
spot, rumble
anything.
spots and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hurricane, massive influence on me and my appearance and my style. But man, the list is endless. We could do an
Be for
entire
hours.
podcast about it.
Well, we do have to sort of start wrapping it up here. I could talk for hours about this, but then, we'd be here we could do a whole weekly series almost.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so.
we've got a big PWA show coming up, dropped out on, I believe it's May 29, it's coming Friday. We've got a few big matches, big street fight no DQ match for the Soul of PWA Championship, Tuckman versus Tony Sin. We've also got Scott Green as host, and then I believe tag titles on the line. We've got North Shore versus Mana and Manoush, and a match for a fuel card. I believe petrol cards on the line in a match
Yeah,
as
a
well.
field card on a pole match.
Yeah, that should be very intriguing. Could you talk a bit about that and any other shows you have coming up? I'm assuming you're going to be involved in this show, yes?
I'll be there. I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm going to do, but I'll be there. I can't beat a champion and not show up. So I'm going to show my face in one fashion or another. I'm going to find a role for myself on that show.
Might be a bit
But
frowned upon
it's
if a champ didn't show up. You haven't
yeah,
quite got the
no.
Roman Reigns schedule yet.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. Give me a
Yeah,
couple more years and I'll be taking off all that time.
yeah,
But that's my job as the champion is to be the ambassador of PWA. So I'm going to show up, and even if I don't have a match, I'm there to support everyone else. But I'll be
fantastic.
there, and
I
if I have a say in it, I'm going to show face and I'm going to do something. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'll be there.
can't wait to
And
tune in and see how it goes. I'll be there in person, but I think everyone can watch it on YouTube. Is that correct?
yes, so we're really fortunate now that all of our Black Label shows are being streamed directly on YouTube. They've never been more accessible. So if you can't make it out to Liberty Hall, please watch it on YouTube. It will be live. Liberty Hall, we've got a lot of history in that building, Mick,
Yeah,
as you know.
yeah,
That was kind of the spiritual home of PWA for a while, right?
yeah, yeah. Especially those big first few years when Black Label was getting established, it was all there.
Yeah. And now I think it's kind of at the point where PWA has grown beyond that. And now the spiritual home of PWA is wherever we go, we
Yeah,
make it so. Um, but it's kind of cool that we're going back there with all that history. And there's going to be a lot of fresh faces on the card that have actually never wrestled in Liberty Hall before. So they might get to feel that Liberty Hall magic if it's in
yep,
the air
yep,
that night. And it's a stacked card, man. It's like there's massive competition to just get a spot on Black Label shows because we have such a massive roster, but it is so layered. And as one of the coaches now at the Pro Wrestling Academy, I'm really fortunate now that I get a real close look at some of the talent coming up, some of our freshest talent coming up, and we have some incredible performers. I
yep,
think some of them are going to be on that show
yep,
and they're really fresh into their careers, maybe a year or less, some of them, and they have some really bright futures. So I'm really excited for Dropped Out at Liberty Hall coming up this Friday.
yep.
Um, so tickets are available for that, or you can check it out live on YouTube.
So besides PWA May 29th at Liberty Hall, where else can the people find Big Fudge next?
I'll just give a shout out for July 4th. We've got a big show at the Metro Theatre, King of the Metro, which is becoming an annual event for us. We have a huge 30-person rumble that takes place. But also, I'm sure I'll be keeping myself busy that show as the champion. Would love to have a match for the championship. Um, so those are the two shows you can catch me at in the incoming future. Check them out on YouTube if you can't be there live in person. We live stream these events on YouTube.
So just to wrap up then, we've got those PWA events coming up. What are your future sort of plans and goals in the immediate future?
I want to get out and about more. I've spent the majority of this podcast talking about PWA, and PWA is my passion and it's my life, and I love PWA. But I also need to get outside that PWA bubble, and I want to start exploring other avenues as well. Lots of options in Australia, and also I've got to figure out how to tackle that big overseas adventure I've been meaning to have,
Yeah,
and I'm not quite sure what how that's going to materialize, especially now that I'm trying to adapt. My lifestyle has changed drastically since my partner and stepdaughter have moved in with me, and my priorities have shifted. So now it's finding time for them. The focus isn't wrestling now. It's putting those two forward above everything else. But I still want to try and squeeze all the juice I can out of this run with wrestling while until the wheels fall off, basically. So my my next big adventure is probably seeing where I can go in Australia next, out and about. I'd love to get out there.
are there any promotions you've got your eye on that you'd love to go to that you haven't been to yet?
I've never wrestled in Melbourne.
Oh,
Yeah, that's crazy to say after 11 years.
absolutely.
So that's a big one that I'm trying to get in the works happening this year. So reached
Guys,
out
they're
to a couple
MCW
places.
Renegades. Guys, get onto it.
Yeah, would love to finally make that happen. So that's a big one. I would love to just go interstate again in general. So there's a few places I've hit up. I've gotten dates from them, and now it's just kind of lining things up. And it's tricky because I'm a family guy now, but also I'm the champion. So my priorities are very much with my family, with PWA, and making them my focus. But I really want to get out into the Australian wrestling scene again. And then I want to get out into the wide world of wrestling. And I don't know, maybe go to Japan or maybe go to the UK, or I want to scratch that itch and tick that off my list finally, Mick.
Sounds good. The world needs more Big Fudge. And
I think so.
as far as being a family man, I know a lot of performers in WWE that have those big buses, the big, coaches that they travel in. I think PWA should really shell out some coin for you and get you a big coach so you can just travel around the country with your stepdaughter and just see the world.
I need a big ice cream van so I can still have that side hustle when I'm traveling the country and sell some ice cream and sell some sweets, but it can also get me to the venue in a
Perfect.
timely fashion.
Everyone needs a side hustle. Totally agree. And
Yes.
just finally, where can people find Big Fudge on social media?
Uh, I am on Instagram and X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at butt puncher underscore. And I think I'm on Facebook at V Butt Puncher. I'm not sure. I forget the Facebook one. Just type in Big Fudge and I'll show up. I'm pretty sure you won't miss my big stupid pick mask. It's hard to miss. I'll just say if we're wrapping up now, Mick, it was easy for me to open up to you because I've known you for a long while, and I was looking forward to this interview, as I'm sure you're aware of, because I appreciate how much time and energy you've given me over the years,
Thank you, man.
and it's people like you that make it easy for me to keep going. So this is a lovely chat, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I really appreciate it as well. I mean, it's been a while in the making. We talked about it months ago when you won the title, and then the dates were nailed down for the past couple of weeks. Then you were sick, then I was sick, and it just became a whole thing. But I'm glad we got it done. It's a great
Took
time.
a lot of work to get here, but we're here, and it was worth it, man.
Yeah,
And I'm a big
absolutely.
fan, big supporter of yourself and the arena media. I think you do an amazing job putting a spotlight on local wrestling specifically, and anyone that's willing to put time and energy into spotlighting the local wrestling scene is I'm a big fan in my books. That's just I appreciate anyone helping us make our lives easier and help promote what we do.
Thank you so much. My stance has always been that Aussie pro wrestling at its best is as good as any scene in the world. So whatever I can do to shine a light on that, I will. And people like yourself are driving it all the way. So can't wait to see where it goes next.
Thanks so much, Mick. No, you're an unsung hero. Always appreciate seeing you at our shows whenever I see your face. it immediately gives me that sense of comfort. And I feel that way of a lot of our fans that I've formed this connection with over the years. And a lot of these fans I know by name now, just
Yeah,
because they've stuck around as long as they have, and they keep on coming back for more and more. So without you guys, we're nothing, well and truly. So yeah, thank you for everything, man.
no worries, mate. Anytime. And just to wrap up then, you can see Big Fudge at on May 29 at Dropped Out, PWA Dropped Out at Liberty Hall, and give him a follow at the socials. We'll put the links in the description. Thank you, Big Fudge. Hope you have a great night.
Thanks, man. You too, man.